Evidence of gigantic planets and axis tilt of the Earth, and then over the last 4 days, today is the 22nd, or rather today is the 2nd of October, and for 4 days they've blanked it out altogether. We can't see anything from 3 different stations. This is Neumeyer Station 3 webcams, and as I said, they've been unexpectedly veiled over to cover the massive planets heading north. I've done minute and very persistent tests over the months to show the variations, the tilt of the Earth, the movement of the stars, the movement of inner planets, which are new to our solar system and are sometimes 100 times larger than the surrounding stars, and we'll get into that as we go through. You can see for yourself the sizes. Now this here, I was a bit confused by this for a while. What has actually happened, I was able to determine from various angles that the light is coming up from around the horizon, and as the light source comes up, it passes under the Neumeyer station, which is about probably 25 to 30 feet high, or say 8 to 9 metres above the snow line. At first glance, the lens flare to the left, and then there's another smaller flare, and then a white dot. Well, it turns out, after observing it for many hours and running repeatedly tests back and forth, that white dot is actually a planet. However, there is a very large planet. As you see, the glare is almost square, and then there's a round bulge to the top left. That is in fact a very large planet, which we can identify as we go into depth of these slides. So that's the bulge there I've shown. This is at 7:20 AM. Now, at that time, the sunrise and duration of sunlight was supposed to be, by that time, bright sunlight, but it wasn't. So in other words, this indicated that the Earth is tilted over on its axis somewhat. Here's another shot of the same thing, and to the top left you'll see the little planet is moving away, and the light is not as bright, and you see the lens flare. So it's now at 7:30. This is in a PM. 7:50 PM. Still we see they're similar, but if you look closely at the bright light, the bulge that you can see before is now moved out, and it's a very, very large planet. Unmistakable. I thought at one stage there it might have been that the engineers had rolled out a very large floodlight to blind the camera and keep the camera running, but I dismissed that after a while when I realised that the light is actually being bent from around the horizon, and it's a phenomenon that just lines up with the actual station itself. So top left there is a planet, then you've got a lens flare, a very large lens flare, and then a gigantic planet, and it seems to be responding to a different light source that is not the same as our light from the sun. (7:50 AM). It should be PM. You can still see the remnant of it there. That's that area there. That's the planet. And then it seems to have faded because of the planet being in between the Earth and the light source, which is not the sun. It's a different light source. We can still see this planet here, and later on you'll see how this planet is actually, I was able to calculate it quite accurately, coming over on an angle there, and compared to the stars in the background. The weather conditions have to be just right to see what we're looking at. Now here's another planet down here and a planet there. Now when we go along a little bit further, you see these are much larger than the surrounding stars, so therefore the stars are dots of light. These are possibly 10 times or more width of a starlight. So I've gone in, this is the actual structure here, and that's a planet. So I've zoomed in on that. I'll just go back and show you that. So I'm zooming in here on that bit there. Now, another phenomena. We have this strange light, different colour now. And you see that this is still dark down there, so all the lights are off, they're still asleep. So this is now 8:40 AM, the sun's coming up, or a light is coming up. It's very difficult to say down there whether it's the sun or some other light that comes up, because the Earth is wobbling on its axis. So here's at 8:50 AM, light is still there, 9 AM. Then we get this phenomena. The light hasn't risen here, which it normally does over the months that we've watched it. It's now rising, and you see it's over here somewhere. So when you see a shadow behind like so, that means the light is shining on one side of the snowdrift, and on the other side it's dark. So that gives you an indication which direction it's coming from. This of course is very bright on the end, but bright here, there's a circle on top there, that's a dome. That'll give you some idea. If you take that circle and it's like an eclipse of the moon, that means the light is coming up on this angle here. Suddenly it changes. Now there's a white light. We see that light there was, before, it was a yellow light. Now it's white. But that is not this light here. This is coming from somewhere else. This is brighter on this side. So it seems to be coming on a slight angle, and you see the dome on top is round now, so the light is back here somewhere, so there's two lights. Same phenomena. Again, you can look at the snow and you see the lumps of snow, how they're reflecting light, and with the shadows on the other side. We still have this bright light here, unidentified. Okay, so the planets appear in the morning at 7 AM and remain for 50 minutes, then at 17:20 or 5:20 PM, remaining for 50 minutes once again, but clearer in the surrounding darkness. The large body is locked onto the South Pole, preventing the axis tilt to continue. The planet is the home base of many of my angels, which are being dispatched to the earth to illuminate the Jews and its empire. Angels are perfect in nature, and compared to human beings, which have devolved into a Sodom state caused by the Jews, that will be purified with the removal of the Jews. Now, I remind you that fallen angels mated with women. Now, these became demons in the reincarnated evil men to dominate the world via the Jews. So it was wiped out by the flood, but then they reincarnate. So Pope Francis is a Jew. Pope John Paul II was a Jew. Most high-ranking cardinals are Jews. Bishops and priests are Jews, or Jesuits, which are Jews. The Archbishop of Canterbury is a Jew. Obama is a Jew, acting as a Muslim. The Queen is a Jewess, and on the other, and on it goes. These are the vehicles in which these demons dwell. By innumerable angels are landing on the earth as I speak, so the end is nigh. Now, we have been watching the large planet for months. It does not orbit. It is locked to Antarctica, South Pole. Now, there's many planets down there, and I'm talking about one in particular that's very large, and it seems to be locked onto the axis of the Earth and the South Pole to prevent the wobble of the Earth being too extreme. If I weren't here, you'd be all dead by now. So, we have now, again, another very large planet that's reflecting light, possibly from this large light source here, that's around the other side of the horizon, and we see this here, indicating not that light flash, but a light flash that's possibly from around the horizon. Or it is this one, hard to say, but this is a round light here that is extremely large. That's because the Earth's tilt has gone over and we can see it racing up and goes back down. It gets up to about this level and then it goes back down again. And this is a planet here. So the light is moving horizontally. This next light is at the 15th of August 2014. We have an alien making a noise at the back there. She's trying to get out of... Oh, sorry, she's done. Okay, now, there's that planet again. So the planet actually goes along that line there, and I've been able to, on a clear night, watch that planet and determine its angle compared to the stars behind it. Here we have a white light shining from both sides, on both sides. You see the dome on top. It's a very good indicator. When you see a white, round, circular light, that's their big dome. It's very, very large. And it will reflect the light and give you some idea where the light source is coming from. So if the light source is completely around here, that's white and that's white, then the light source is out here somewhere. We then have a light building up here, another light source. We've determined that there's at least 3 light sources at the same time. There is a planet. There is a planet. See, that planet is starting to brighten up. Close up, we see this is starting to form. These gigantic magnetic fields bend light, and we'll show you in some slides that follow how the light is strangely bent out of shape. There it is there. There it is there, you can see it, gigantic. There it is again. Again. Seems to be fixed to the Earth, and that is the planet that is keeping the Earth from toppling over. When we cross the Milky Way galaxy, which I predicted years ago to occur on 375 days earlier than the crossing of the equator predicted by the Mayan calendar on the 21st of December 2012. Well, the Gregorian calendar is out by 375 days, so the Mayan calendar is right. So that meant that you take the 375 days off and it goes back to the 11th of December 2011 when we crossed over the Milky Way galaxy. You'll find that when you drain your water out your sink, you probably haven't noticed, but it's now turning the other direction it used to. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere now, it turns anti-clockwise. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, it turns clockwise. You see it's remaining in the same position, but these are moving across. So there it is emerging from the light. If I go back one. There's also something else here. That's a close-up of it. It's very pixelated, so we can't see too much of it, but there's something there giving off light. That's all there is. See to the left there, there's 4 planets in a group. We photographed these several times on different days under different conditions. There they are there. There they are again, they've moved across. I'll just go back and show you how they've moved. So there it was in relationship to the building, now it's further away. So by 3:10 to 4 AM, light varies indicating orbiting objects. Conclusion, the large planet is locked into Antarctica. That prevents the Earth from flipping further. Small moons lighten the night 4 times as they orbit above Antarctica. Many reports of these angelic craft transporting angels to the Earth is true, assembling my army for battle with the Jews and the demons. The Jews are basically unfortunate in that they are descended from Cain, and that they are the most evil of groups out of Babylon, so therefore the most evil is where all the demons dwell. Just how it is. Now my angels are human-like. I have seen them on the earth, so has my wife, and they vary in size. Now they, like human beings, they need to be near the Earth so that their ships can bring them to the Earth. That's why Werner von Braun, who was a German, remember, he knew what was going on, he knew what Hitler was on about. And that is why they were studying the Vedas, because the angels had left instructions how to build these UFO ships. Now, Admiral Byrd had gone to, with a fleet of thousands of men in aircraft carrier, etc., had gone down to look into the under the ice bases that the Germans had been involved in with angels. And to the surprise, a 6 months mission was cut short at 2 months when UFOs emerged out of the water, destroyed their equipment and sent them packing. You can find out it was a Russian documentary that did that, and interviewing Americans who were the gunners and so forth, trying to shoot these things down as they come flashing past, destroying ships and planes alike. So from September 28, 2014, all webcams have been blocked from recording the planets we have been recording for years. Now, during September, the planets were recorded by myself. The 20th, the magnetic influence had increased dramatically. The following slides show the effect, with light being bent around the curvature of the Earth, then erupt in a flash of light. Now, talking about it is not as good as a photograph. So the light has been seen to be curved, resulting in a normal bright white snow and ice remaining in a twilight to dark appearance. Okay, now, that's the angle from a planet to the centre of that black dot, which some speculate is a part of the camera, which when the light is too bright, it forms a black dot at the centre of the camera to stop the sensor being damaged. Others say it is a orbiting planet. There's two arguments for that. That is not really the important point. You can see how the magnetic field has been bent, and that's going up at around 48 degrees. I'll show you this planet will be shown closer. Normally the light is coming like so, but at this point in time it's being drawn up and elongated, and you can see that the horizon itself is being bent of the light hitting the camera lens. This is not an anomaly in the camera. What it is the light is being bent. There's other shots we've had down there where there's just a normal clear day and the horizon is level. So this is another shot. You see in here, you'll see a side of a planet. There's a zoom in on it. I'll show you later others that I've captured that are much more clear. But this is a gigantic thing. I mean, you see the end of the pen here, that would be normally the width of the moon, and this thing is probably 40 times, well, 20 to 30 times wider than the moon. There's a better shot of it. There's a close-up. Now the light is reflecting off it on one side, doesn't appear to be coming from the sun, so there's another light source, and it's probably a light source that's close to the sun's wavelength, but it's not readily available to the naked eye. There's probably older men down there who can see it, and they can point it out, because as you get older your vision changes somewhat. Now this is talking about the column, and then I talked about the crossing of the Milky Way galaxy and the water going down. That of course has been ignored worldwide as well. Now here we see a very, very dramatic, the shots before this, the light was pouring around over the surface of the snow. You see how it's being bent already, the horizon, and the angle is quite extreme, around, I don't know, 50 degrees, somewhere around that. And you see the light on either side of the screen is almost non-existent, as if it's in a twilight, yet looking straight at the camera, it is bright to the point of being dazzling. Then we have this strange phenomena. It's like again, either side of the light, it's quite dark on the snow. You can see the snow, how it's reflecting the light with the shadows behind it. And then the magnetic field is bending the light to such an extent that it's making a column out of it, which in the next slide or two, you'll be able to see the planets behind this light as it's drawn into a column. So, as I said, some say this is a black sensor in the camera. This is a close-up of it. It's doing this type of thing, gaining altitude. And then there's the angle it's at. You take the 312.88, take that away from 360, it gives you just under 48 degrees. Now, here are 3 planets. There's one there, there's one there, and there's one there. Now, this one here, you see how the light has been elongated. It's making it so it's higher. These ones there and there are quite oval, but the horizon itself is bent. There's a closer shot. You still have the same phenomena of the light on either side of the column being dark. This sphere here, it's shining bright in the centre, and then around it is a yellow orb shining through the haze, slightly overcast. Now, you see down the bottom here, there's no light on the snow. There's no light surrounding these here, so therefore it appears to be a different form of light. It's way bigger than the sun, maybe 10 times wider than the sun or more, maybe 20 times, it's hard to say. Here we see a light source coming from this direction because that iceberg is light. We still have the same strange phenomena there. We have another light source raised here, but we have a light source behind this and a light source from over here. You see that's dark on this side, dark on that side, light on that side of the mounds of snow. But you have a light source from behind the tower itself, which is shining and casting a shadow. And over here is a light source. So you have a light source there, a light source behind here, a light source out that direction, and possibly the same light source there. So there's a minimum of 3 light sources. There's another shot of the same phenomena. Now, this here is like at 90 degrees in that iceberg. This is usually dark with a light on this side, but this time it's picking up light from this side. That's the shadow with light behind it. Again, light there. 3 or 4 light sources. Here we have Neumeyer itself. The light, as you've seen in the other slides, the building is around here somewhere. And then there's an orb here. That there is a planet. That there is a star. That's a star, that's a star, that's a star, that's a star. So this is actually underneath. Now watch what happens. Up to the left we have the planet, and it's shining and very, very large compared to the other stars. So that's a planet. So we've gone from there to there to there. Now, I've been able to plot the direction of the stars at the angle that they're going up at. It's 19.68 degrees. And this one here, that's a star there, or a planet rather. It comes up from behind here and goes across the sky. I've been able to plot it, and it's 19.33 degrees, and the surrounding stars is 19.68. So there it is there. The white and the red line is comparing the two, and it's 0.35 degree difference. As you come from left to right, as we go to the right, it spreads apart. But with the paint program, you can't get the pixels to be showing it entirely right. Now this is part of the lights that are formed in the sky over Antarctica called the aurora lights, like the borealis. But they're twisting and doing all sorts of strange things. I've seen the same effect years ago in Canada and up in Alaska. But down in the south it's doing different things entirely. It's twisting the light. You see the magnetic fields are twisting. Here's one directly over Neumeyer station. Now, this red moon that's coming up on October the 8th, I returned to Australia on October the 8th in the year 1996, so there's an 18-year period that in October the 8th, only 6 days away, we'll see a red moon. Now this is the last 4 days, what we've been looking at down there. I've taken shots and saved them on the computer. I only have to show you the one. But for 4 days there's been no light and just the darkness, and that's it. 3 different directions. That's what I'm saying before, about 18 years. Now if you want to stop it and read that, that's up to you. We've got a lot of slides here to get through. So by the 20th of September, the dramatic increase in magnetic interaction, curving the horizon and pulling the images out of shape. You see there the curved horizon, but there's very, very little light on the snow. Yet this is bright sunlight, so bright that it has a dot of black. And if it is the effect of the camera, fine, but it does indicate that it's extremely bright light, and there's the angle that it's increased from. So what I've done, what I usually do is I'll start where the planet rises up, goes up, hits there, and then I'll backtrack it down and have that line which will give me the actual angle. So it's 312.88, which is just under 48 degrees off the horizon. .312, of course, is my name, Brian Leonard Lightning Marshall. Now here's another one showing a same large planet or another large planet, and very likely the engineers have missed it, because they do their best to cover everything up, because they're ordered to by the government, which is all dominated by the Jews. And if you want to molest your children, just go immigrate to Germany. It's against the law here, but it's not against the law over there. It's a wonderful country, Germany. And you get little booklets that the kindergarten kiddies bring home. They can't read yet, but it shows mum and daddy how to masturbate little babies. The Jews say it's to develop their sexuality. And as I said, incest is now permissible. Lovely people. There's another shot of that same planet. That has grown substantially over the months, and I believe that is in all probability the one that's sort of keeping the Earth in check from tipping over. It's gigantic. Probably floating around between Antarctica and New Zealand, somewhere in that vicinity. Now this one we get into the vertical column, and I mentioned what I said before about the water and so forth, just as a reminder. You see here on the black dot, and you'll see the column of light. Now this column starts before the light rises, so it's bending the light around the Earth. And you'll see to the left that it's almost dark, and to the right it's almost dark. It's the most strangest phenomena you'll want to see, that something is so bright that causes a black dot, but is not bright enough to light the surrounding snow. Then this phenomena, again bright in the middle, almost twilight either side, and the column of light is just pulled up dramatically. Magnetic fields are causing this. So this is one, I think it's the same day, doesn't matter. You see as it's getting higher it's elongating it, and the brightness is so large, the black dot is so large, it's staggering. So there you go, it's gone up there and now elongated. So it is a different day. There is a planet there, but the other two planets was down here, they are now gone. So they're on a different orbit. There's where they were. You see circled in black there. There's a close-up. You see this planet in higher in altitude, its light has been elongated like that is, so therefore the magnetic field is somewhere around the horizon like so. This is that large orb again. No light on the snow. No light going through the clouds except in a direct light, as if it was a sheet in the sky. Here's another light coming up on both sides, 3 light sources. There's a close-up of it. These are the angles of the planet. This is a planet here, and it follows that line along up there, so I take a shot of it there, fix the protractor on it, then run it backwards to that point just as he's emerging out of behind the station, and it gives me 19.33 degrees. So here again is that station is totally engulfed by the light. a better shot of it. There's the planet, very, very bright light and huge compared to the surrounding stars. And there's how I measured it. It's 19.68 for the stars and 19.33 for the planet. So the white line, if you see it to the bottom right, it's getting further away than it is to the up top left. Very hard to pick up. Here's some more of the lights from magnetic effect. This one that's directly over the Neumeyer station. There's your red moon, there's all your dates, etc. This is what's happening the last 4 days. It's now the 2nd of October. Everything's going dark. Is it the sun supposed to go dark sooner or later? Some wise man once said that. And there we go, we have our Pope, my sweetheart, and myself. Zig Heil and hasta la vista, baby. What I'm going to show you here is evidence of gigantic planets and axis tilt of the Earth, and then over the last 4 days, today is the 22nd, or rather today is the 2nd of October, and for 4 days I've blanked it out altogether. We can't see anything from 3 different stations. This is Neumeyer Station 3 webcams, and as I said, they've been unexpectedly veiled over to cover the massive planets heading north. I've done minute and very persistent tests over the months to show the variations, the tilt of the Earth, the movement of the stars, the movement of inner planets, which are new to our solar system and are sometimes 100 times larger than the surrounding stars, and we'll get into that as we go through. You can see for yourself the sizes. Now this here, I was a bit confused by this for a while. What has actually happened, I was able to determine from various angles that the light is coming up from around the horizon, and as the light source comes up, it passes under the Neumeyer station, which is about probably 25 to 30 feet high, or say 8 to 9 metres above the snow line. At first glance, the lens flare to the left, and then there's another smaller flare, and then a white dot. Well, it turns out, after observing it for many hours and running repeatedly tests back and forth, that white dot is actually a planet. However, there is a very large planet. As you see, the glare is almost square, and then there's a round bulge to the top left. That is in fact a very large planet, which we can identify as we go into depth of these slides. So that's the bulge there I've shown. This is at 7:20 AM. Now, at that time, the sunrise and duration of sunlight was supposed to be, by that time, bright sunlight, but it wasn't. So in other words, this indicated that the Earth is tilted over on its axis somewhat. There's another shot of the same thing, and to the top left you'll see the little planet is moving away, and the light is not as bright, and you see the lens flare. So it's now at 7:30. This is in the PM. 7:50 PM. Still we see a similar, but if you look closely at the bright light, the bulge that you can see before is now moved out, and it's a very, very large planet. Unmistakable. I thought at one stage there it might have been that the engineers had rolled out a very large floodlight to blind the camera and keep the camera running, but I dismissed that after a while when I realised that the light is actually being bent from around the horizon, and it's a phenomenon that just lines up with the actual station itself. So top left there is a planet, then you've got a lens flare, a very large lens flare, and then a gigantic planet. And it seems to be responding to a different light source that is not the same as our light from the sun. (7:50 a.m.) It should be p.m. You can still see the remnant of it there. That's that area there. That's the planet. And